to PopNerdery, the show that is nerdier than writing the cheat sheet for your thermodynamics final as a palindrome in iambic pentameter.
That one hit me 3 separate times.
This is a place where you're allowed to have an opinion on anything in pop culture, but you gotta have more than just a little bit to say. So in a normal episode, we pick out some of the headlines that have us talking, do a deep dive, and then give some recommendations. But not today, friends. Today, we bring you the Deadpool extravaganza episode. I know we are all excited to talk about this because this movie has been on our radar for a long time, just like Ryan Reynolds' poster is on my wall and has been for a long time.
Ceiling, not wall, ceiling, be honest.
And my phone, wallpaper, yada, yada, yada. Friends, if you are joining us for the first time, welcome. I am your host, Brent. With me, as always, is my left nipple, Toph, and my right, something else, Dave. Gentlemen.
Chimichangas.
Chimichangas. So this is our Deadpool extravaganza, very different from a normal episode, but we're glad to have you. Woo. Toph, are you glad to have us too?
I am always glad to have you guys in my ear holes. That's where I prefer you, specifically. Other things I prefer specifically, following us on the Twitters, at PopNerdery, PopNerdery. Comment on things as they happen. We inappropriately hashtag things. I act like I'm Deadpool, even though I have nowhere near the follower or the right to be that vile to people I don't know. Right. But I'll do it anyways. You can interact with us there between the shows. Hit us up at PopNerdery. You can listen to the show in 3 different ways. The first is in the iTunes. Jump to the podcast section, fire up that search box, type PopNerdery in there, and boom, look at these jerks filling up your phones with delicious, hot steaming podcasts. Fresh from our ovens to your ears weekly. What? The second way is at PopNerdery.com. We archive all of our episodes there. We interact in the comments. We like to write Deadpool/fiction in there sometimes, although I have to be honest.
Yes, we do.
I've had to edit some of them because we're getting complaints from the government.
just Ryan Reynolds slash.
We break all kinds of walls. 3rd, 4th, 5th. Yeah, penises have broken through all kinds of walls in these things. And finally,
veiny walls.
Oh God. The third and final way to listen to the show is to write Deadpool's cup size on a 3x5 index card, mail it to Dale Foltz. He'll come and be filthy right behind you while you work.
I will do that. All right, guys. So we're going to talk about Deadpool today. If you did not listen to our 2-hour-plus Star Wars review, this is how
shame on you.
Well, first of all, shame on you. Second of all, this one won't go quite as long. I think that we had a little bit more to say about Star Wars than we will about Deadpool. Yeah. Although I would venture to say we're going to be roughly as enthusiastic as we were.
Correct.
But the way that this works is we're going to take the first 10-15 minutes. We're going to talk about general impressions. We're going to be spoiler-free. For those of you that haven't seen the movie, luckily we are recording this like a week and a half after Deadpool has come out. So we'll be spoiler-free for a little while, and then we'll take a break, and we'll get into full spoilers. We'll talk about the plot. We'll talk about what we liked. We'll talk about what we are looking forward to in the inevitable Deadpool 2.
Yeah.
And we'll talk about Easter eggs and post-credit sequences and all that. So first off, let's set the ground rules here and give some background. Yeah. Brent and I saw this movie together, and
holding hands and
elbowing
cuddling
each other throughout whenever Ryan Reynolds would make a Green Lantern joke. And Topher has yet to see it, so we were holding off on recording. We weren't sure whether or not Toph was going to be able to make it, but as we said to Toph, we're going to spend 10-15 minutes being spoiler-free, but this is a movie that cannot be spoiled, I don't think. The trailer is what this movie is, and that's a good thing.
Yeah. Listeners, basically, if you want to skip the spoiler stuff, give up after the ba-da-bop. But we really strongly believe, exactly as Dave just said, that Deadpool is an IP that's not going to ruin your viewing multiple times if you catch a couple spoilers going in. Go ahead, Toph.
and this character, I mean, I guess in all superhero movies, to be a little bit stupid, most of them are actually immortal because they make money, and things that make money don't die. but Deadpool is actually literally immortal. Like his backstory is he's around like 800 years in the future. So, there wasn't going to be like, guys, they killed him. They killed him right at the end there. You never saw it coming, and just boom. I respect the hell out of them for doing it, but they just killed it off in the first movie. So,
and even if they do that in a future iteration, he'll just pop up in the next film, and no one will question it or say anything about it. It'll just become fodder for additional jokes. So
exactly.
So Brent, why don't you start off? Tell us what were your general thoughts about this movie without spoilers.
Yeah, let's try and do kind of a back and forth between you and I again, since Toph didn't necessarily get the chance to enjoy all this delicious goodness that is Deadpool quite yet. As far as an acting standpoint, I mean, Deadpool and Ryan Reynolds have forever made sense to me.
Absolutely.
So there was almost no question for me going in that Ryan Reynolds was going to be able to pull off this character so perfectly. The comedy hit, the kind of just personality types around him all played really well with him, made me curious about the other characters that came up that I wasn't as familiar with. So I thought from an acting and kind of casting standpoint, it really was on point. In fact, the girl that plays Vanessa Carlyle, his girlfriend / wife, I wasn't really familiar with, but I knew she looked familiar, and then coming back and realizing where I know her from, I'm pretty excited about her as the girlfriend after the fact, because she did a great job, and then I get to know kind of her acting background and stuff. What did you think about the acting in general, Dave?
Yeah, I thought. I mean, I totally agree with you. Ryan Reynolds was born to play Deadpool. The Merc with the mouth is that he's just been that character since Van Wilder, or whenever it was the first time you saw Ryan Reynolds.
Two guys, a girl, and a pizza place. That was Merc the Mouth working that pizza place.
You could always see it coming from there. That was just, I mean, you looked at him the first time you saw that god-awful, horrible ABC sitcom and went, yeah, that dude will be Deadpool one day.
Yeah. So his love interest, that was Morena Baccarin. She's to people who listen to this podcast, she is most famously from Firefly, and she had kind of like a contentious, sarcastic, romantic relationship with Mal, the Nathan Fillion character on Firefly, and it was kind of similar here. So you got that same dynamic from the same actress who's good at delivering dialogue in that way. So I really liked her. I thought, well, you can't really call it acting. You have to call it voice acting more than anything. I thought Colossus was pitch perfect.
Totally worked. Yeah.
I thought they did a really great job, and we'll get into that a little bit more. But I thought, essentially that's a video game character with a voice, and but they did a really fantastic job with it. I thought the couple of X-Men that made it into it, Negasonic, Teenage Warhead, and the two villains were pretty good. I thought that the two villains were kind of stock comic booky villains.
Right.
They were not. They were the guy was kind of well developed. You at least understood how he tied into Deadpool. But I thought the acting was great on both sides. As far as the directing, I really liked what they did with this movie. It was not straightforward. They did do a little bit of like time jumping to make it interesting. They did, and they did a nice job of resetting, about 2/3 of the way through the movie, so that the third act was just straight action, move forward. But I really liked the way that they would take a moment and slow down, or take a moment and let him just crack jokes. The pure jokes per minute of this movie is higher than any superhero movie we've had, including Guardians, which was pretty joke heavy.
Yeah, easily. And it's because they got to explore all of the R-rated places that each one of those jokes could go. And, it definitely seems as if when we eventually get a Blu-ray DVD release, we're going to have a lot of outtakes because they got to ad-lib and they got to make each of those bits work. And I think your point is great, that each one of those set pieces was stacked around a whole bunch of, just breathing comedy bits that didn't seem over the top but were hilarious and self-referential and alluding to all sorts of, other pop culture references, which you and I just ate up in the theater. Dave and I were smacking each other to bring each other's attention onto flashes on the screen or jokes that might be missed by half of the rest of the theater. So
I mean, it started literally with the opening credits to the movie, where the opening credits were, produced by some asshats and starring God's own idiot and directed by, they made jokes from the very start.
There wasn't a single name in the whole opening credits, but they clearly defined exactly the tone for the rest of the movie.
Yeah.
Right off the jump.
There was no wasted opportunity to make a joke in this movie. And when you talk about ad-libbing, I have to bring up T.J. Miller. I thought T.J. Miller was hilarious. And
Agreed.
T.J. Miller is a guy who is best used sparingly. And I thought they did a really nice job of using him in the most effective way.
Same way with his roommate. Deadpool's roommate has a very fun role to play in this thing, but they could have way overdone that, and they didn't.
Yeah, I thought that was Nichelle Nichols. I thought that was Uhura for a minute, but it was not. It was not. I really did. I was like, did they really get Uhura to do that part where Deadpool is making lewd sex jokes at her?
I think I confirmed that for you in the theater, and you still didn't believe me. You had to go research.
I still he is lying.
You jerk.
Okay, before we go full spoiler, I feel like everybody who doesn't want to be spoiled has seen this movie already. So before we go full spoiler, let's just talk real quick about the reaction to this movie and what it means for superhero movies in general moving forward. So the critical reaction to this movie really couldn't have been better. I don't think even Ryan Reynolds thought that this would have like an 83% on Rotten Tomatoes right now.
Right.
When it's made, I think, specifically what is referred to as a fuck ton of money. So that's a pretty good way that you can be sure that
it made
it's good.
You must be a statistician.
So
I do advanced statistics. This
movie cost a little south of $60 million to make,
which is nothing.
It made almost 160 on the first weekend, and to date, at the time we're recording, has made more than 325 million.
Dang.
Yeah. So the thing of this movie is, I don't know. First of all, who at Fox didn't greenlight this years ago? Because it took them about 7 years to get it made.
Right.
Ryan Reynolds and Miller.
11 years. He keeps talking about it in interviews as the 11-year marriage or 11-year worst relationship he's ever been in.
Well, I bet you he's counting the first time he read the script for X-Men Origins Wolverine, because that's a bad first 5 years of marriage.
That's a really shitty first date.
Yeah. Which we'll talk about. He doesn't.
That's not even the first day. That's the first time you sleep together.
He doesn't.
Is that what you call that? It's like you can't figure out where it goes.
If you're gonna get your mouth sewn shut, that's some kinky shit.
So this movie got great critical reaction. It's, as far as non-spoiler review of the plot, I thought it was a little bit by the numbers in terms of the plot, giving you an origin. It felt to me like a lighter, funnier version of V for Vendetta, which is not a bad thing because I liked that movie. Mm-hmm. But it was the execution of it was what elevated it. The fact
That's intriguing. I don't think I've heard it described that way before.
No,
the fact that they knew what it was and they knew the character so well and they uncompromisingly gave you that character is what felt so satisfying about it to me.
Yeah, I think there's something that to be said about a lot of these superhero films that haven't worked because they've been trying to reimagine things or give an audience something they're not expecting or tweak something in a way that makes it new or fresh. And Deadpool is not a character that needs any of that because by his nature alone, his personality, the gimmicks, the comedy, etc., that's all fresh and new because he gets to say things.
Because he's different.
I think that's one thing that the Disney Marvel stuff has done so well is they make it new and interesting, but it's not like they're reimagining costumes in a crazy way or making the villain something it's not ever been before. And so...
Well, that's what we talked about with Superman last week is they didn't try to fix Deadpool like DC is trying to fix Superman. So... The most interesting part of this Deadpool success, I guess you would call it, to me, is the effect that it's going to have on superhero movies and specifically the Fox superhero movies. Mm-hmm. They've already announced that Wolverine 3 is going to be a hard R rated movie. Which,
it's like, how fast could they announce which was the next one after this now?
Exactly. Instead of saying, hey, Deadpool 2 is coming in 3 years, they said, well, Wolverine starts shooting this summer, and you know what? It's going to be hard R. Wolverine is going to be the spiritual successor to this, which, from what I understand, they're doing the Old Man Logan storyline.
Yeah.
Which is going to be really cool. And honestly, when you do that as a hard R, that makes sense. It makes sense. But
totally works.
The main thing I'm hoping is that they don't then take this and decide that all of the X-Men movies should be hard R.
Which is what they'll do. I mean, let's be clear.
Yeah, and
we know that's the wrong thing, but they'll do it. We'll end up with a fucking hard R Hulk movie at some point in our lives. It won't make any sense. I don't need to see a huge set of green testicles, but I will because Deadpool made a lot of money.
No, I think and I've even read articles that kind of allude to this. Like, X-Men kind of already has its tone, but they also are going to probably try and run a course of the new, like, McAvoy X-Men, and it's got its tone and everything already, but then they can do some spin-offs, and they've already basically announced it's going to be X-Force. And Cable and Deadpool have a relationship in the comics, and we've already talked about it. Campbell for Cable, hashtag. There is absolutely a dynamic of X-Force that is much darker and grittier and more cutthroat than X-Men. So X-Force can live in that hard R world, and Deadpool can contribute to it. And I definitely think you can have stories that travel through time because Cable is a time traveler. Bishop, they've already introduced, a time traveler. They can do hard R stories in different timelines and bring in a lot of characters and do stuff like that. And tonally, it can work if it's X-Force and be dark, or it can work if it's X-Men and be a little bit just more epic.
Yeah, and I think the cool thing is that the X-Men already has played with time and gotten away with it.
Yep.
You know, in Days of Future Past and in First Class, and they played with time, and it has worked. So they don't have to be reverent of everything they've ever produced. This movie is the example that they can make fun of the shit that didn't work.
Absolutely.
And we'll talk about specific examples, but you don't have to say, well, every X-Men movie we've made is good. If you put enough distance between it, you can say, listen, we fucked that one up. Listen, X-Men 3, not that great.
Wolverine Origin, not that good.
Right.
As a character in it, named Deadpool, not that good.
Exactly.
We get to make jokes about it. Yep.
I am curious to, and I was listening to Fat Man on Batman yesterday when they talked about Deadpool, and I'm very curious to see if like someone at Warner Brothers isn't like calling up David Ayer and saying, hey, do you have any hard R stuff that you shot for Suicide Squad that you can put back in?
Oh.
Right.
Because if there's any superhero movie that's coming out in the next 5 years that lends itself to hard R, like, it's fucking Suicide Squad.
I really thought that sentence And if there's any way they could fuck this movie up any worse, is if they would go back and recut it with a bunch of shit that didn't make sense just to try to grab a hard R.
Just like Will Smith saying the word motherfucker a couple more times.
It's dubbed over. He's actually sneezing, and someone just ADRs that in.
Deadpool is Marvel's answer to Deadshot in the DC comic world, and that's Will Smith. So, if they haven't already worked that in,
those aren't the same character though. They really are.
They're not. No, they're not.
Similar. They just have a similar look. They're.
Well, but Deadpool was inspired by Deadshot. You know that, right?
Yeah, I do. Okay. I do, but it's a totally different sensibility.
Yeah. There's no comedy with Deadshot.
Yeah, correct.
Right.
So
I'm just saying, now's the time to capitalize on any of that if you can.
Yeah.
So on more hot topic Joker.
Yeah, I would. There is a part of me, and they would never do this with Batman, but there is a part of me that would like to see Ben Affleck direct a R Batman, just so that there are no limits, an R Batman with Joker, and you give him the reins to any story.
Joker testicles?
It's another pasty white testicles I've got to see.
Exactly. So, all right, we're going to take a quick break. Then we will come back. We will talk about this movie, full spoilers. We'll talk about some plot. We'll talk about the different Easter eggs. This is a movie that was full of them because Deadpool is a character that breaks the fourth wall and gets a little meta. We'll talk about what we liked, what we didn't like, and we will talk about where the Fox X-Men/Deadpool franchises go from here. We're going to take a quick break, and we will be right back.
This episode of the PopNerdery Podcast is brought to you by Audible. Go to popnerdery.com/audible and sign up for a free trial. Support the show and get hours of entertainment.
So, Brent, I really like the sound of your voice. Do you read me the audiobooks?
Until I get that 5-year contract that I've been working on with my lawyers from Audible.com, sadly, Dave, no.
You're holding out.
But with your Audible free trial, you do get free audiobooks at the number of 2 to start out, and then after the trial ends, you get 1 audiobook a month for $14.95 per month. And then you can also receive 30% off the price of additional audiobook.
That's right. It's the ones you listen to in your car. Audiobooks.
It's a 6-hour reading of the 1995 Toyota Camry. Fix it at home yourself. Shop book.
I want a Haynes manual on audiobook.
The diagrams. All right. So this is a little car, and it looks like it's pretty sad. And some of the tires are flat now.
It's read to you by John Goodman. Yes, that John Goodman.
Oh shit! I was listening to that.
No. Sorry, we were lying. The other John Goodman. So go to popnerdery.com/audible, sign up for your free trial, tell your friends so they can share in the audiobook goodness. Welcome back. All right, we are going to continue talking about Deadpool, but here is where we disregard all of the jerks on the internet that say, spoilers! We are going to give you full spoilers. We're going to talk about what we liked and didn't like, and we are going to talk about all of the stuff that had Brent and I elbowing each other.
Yeah.
And hopefully Toph will ask us some questions that we can answer along the way. So I would say that I mentioned before it started at the opening credits, but my favorite thing about this movie was the meta commentary that you got throughout. So I really liked that Green Lantern was not off limits, and X-Men Origins Wolverine was not off limits, and the timeline of the X-Men franchise was not off limits.
Nope.
The budget of this movie was, and how it changed and went up and down and took forever to get approved was not off limits. I thought it was great that you could just have Deadpool look at the camera and name check McAvoy and Stewart.
Yep.
And say, which Professor X are we talking about? I thought that was great.
Yeah, they specifically at certain points, like you said, are referencing things like that. Probably my favorite of all of them was when he shows up at the X Mansion, which they reference being rebuilt multiple times, and he references that why are there only 2 of you here? This is a mansion. I should see a lot of people. Oh, no, Fox didn't have the budget for that?
Exactly right. It's almost as if it would be too expensive to have another X-Man.
So the movie was just full of all of that stuff. And like Dave said, no one was off limits. He pokes fun at Ryan Reynolds. He pokes fun at Hugh Jackman left and right. And it's great because you know, as a real person in IRL, that Hugh Jackman and Ryan Reynolds have a really great relationship, and so they're both very much on board with the idea that the Wolverine Origins film fucking sucked.
Yeah, it was terrible.
They get to make jokes about that. So, from a plot standpoint, and you kind of already alluded to some of this, Dave, I did love what they did with the film. Just from setting up kind of where we went. We, like you said, we broke in, we saw the exact scene from the trailer, plus, because it was more graphic. We got to see more bodies, flailing and digits being chopped off and all that stuff.
Yeah.
But then we got to go back, and we got to see his origin. And for this podcast, I think in general we kind of hate origin films, right?
Right.
They are bad.
But this one worked. I kind of needed his origin film to be okay with the results of his origins.
Yeah, and I think this character specifically, because his original on-screen debut was fucked up so horribly, you kind of have to hit the reset button and give him a real origin.
Yeah, right.
But the way that they kind of get around it is that they don't spend the first half of the movie on origin and the second half of the movie on plot. What they do is they tie the origin into the current day plot, which is kind of helpful. And they do a little bit of time jumping to get you through that scene that was kind of leaked in the test footage. That is the scene that Brent is talking about, where you see that, and it jumps back and forth between that scene and his origin story. And I think that it helps to do that because it breaks it up from like if you guys remember watching the first Spider-Man movie, with the Sam Raimi Spider-Man with Tobey Maguire,
and Bruce Campbell.
The first probably 50 minutes. The first 50 minutes of that movie were origin story. It was, watching him get bit by a spider and try out his powers for 45, 50 minutes. And I think that this movie does a good job of avoiding that.
Yep. And so much of the origin is character driven in a way that, and it's not all Wade Wilson or Deadpool character. We get introduced to the girlfriend. We get introduced to T.J. Miller's character. We get all of that stuff and why they're invested in Deadpool and why, Deadpool matters to them and cares about continuing to incorporate them in his life as Deadpool.
Yeah. And I will say that the overall plot, like I said in the spoiler-free section, did feel a little bit by the numbers. There was a little bit love story and a little bit origin story and a little bit action. And that felt, it felt pretty
formulaic, yeah.
Yes, a little bit. But I think, like I said before, the execution of it was so good. I thought the banter between him and between Reynolds and Marina Baccarin's character was really good, and it not only did the action and the violence and the blood push the envelope, I thought the things that they were talking about and the way that they depicted like a romantic relationship on screen kind of pushed the limit for not only sexually but just the dialogue between the two and the things they joked about and how far they would allow like dark humor to go, and the way that they would have to characterize, truly having Deadpool's love interest. I thought they did, the execution of that character was so good because they gave her agency and they gave her, there was a reason why, why she was attracted to Deadpool, or there's a reason why she was drawn to that character. And it was, outside of just like, oh shit. It was not like Jane Foster in Thor where she was like, oh, you're big and bulky and that's attractive to me. I thought it was weirdly romantic and I mean maybe not weirdly because they released it on Valentine's Day, but weirdly romantic for a movie that had that much cursing and blood.
Yeah, and I think you hit the nail on the head. Like, because it's formulaic, but because it's Deadpool, it still had that freshness, even though it was formulaic, because of the relationship between Deadpool and Vanessa. Like that was something on screen that you don't really see. You don't see banter other than like really clippy dialogue in rom-coms and things like that. But she was very much his equal from a dark comedy perspective.
Absolutely.
In a way that we don't see in Hollywood a lot.
Yeah, and to be able to say that character could hold her own from a potty mouth and also from a witty perspective with the merc with a mouth was kind of cool to see. What else? Toph?
So I wanted to jump back quickly on something. As we all know at this point, I haven't seen it yet because I was adulting foolishly. One of the things that I really love about Deadpool in the comics is that his origin story is never the same thing twice, basically. Like, to the point where they're like, I mean, that's part, again, like when we're discussing that this is a character we like because he is meta and laughs at these things, like his origin story, like at one point, like Loki is supposed to be his father. And like it just, I mean, it goes on and on and on.
I didn't know that.
Are we now actually tied to a real origin going forward? Like, does this put like a concrete anchor in, or is in Deadpool 2, are we going to spend 10 minutes like with a joke backstory?
I think you are kind of tied to an origin story with this movie. It was pretty fucking specific, and it was pretty grueling to watch for parts of it. So I think you are tied to it, but I guess there are still some gray areas, and you can kind of fill in where I leave anything out, Brent. But there's some gray areas because there are these bad guys who do bad things to him after he volunteers, for this thing.
Right.
But you don't know who they are necessarily.
And it's very deliberate that Ajax is the major villain in this film, and Ajax had similar treatments done to him, and I don't know the name of the Gina, the UFC fighter.
Carano.
Angel Dust, excuse me.
Yeah, Gina.
Angel Dust and Ajax both went through this program, which is the Weapon X program. They never used that terminology in the film, but Weapon X. But they never necessarily said why Ajax and Angel Dust, of all people, had this stuff done to them and get to work on the project, because pretty much everybody else just gets fucked.
Yeah, they get
once they
tortured
go
like
through.
crazy.
And we don't know who headed up the Weapon X project either. So, part of me wants to say you could absolutely get more in depth with the Weapon X project, and whether you're bringing in, some of the already established plot line of Stryker, or you're trying to incorporate these other origins that came up and claim that Loki had something to do with it, or even go hard reset and do a new origin film each time and make a joke about that, it would totally still work.
And I think
I agree
I would
with
be
Dave.
bummed. Like, I'm great with, I think what you guys are saying, and if I'm hearing this right, is like you're tied to the event that, creates him as a
in this film,
superhero.
absolutely, yes. Yeah.
However, I think that my hope is that, I would actually be kind of bummed, as much as I love a good backstory and continuity deep dive, I would actually be bummed if it didn't, like, the person's responsible for Deadpool didn't change, like, every.
That'd be fun.
Yeah.
That's so true to the actual character that, and truly, like, you don't, again, a lot of times he is a mercenary, right? He's just getting paid. That's why he's doing it.
Yeah.
Shit. Yep. Like, it's not like Wolverine where you're like, oh, he lives to destroy the people who put him through Weapon X. You don't need that motivation for him. Like, just constantly change it.
And they very deliberately made Wade Wilson the mercenary, and they made Deadpool the guy out for revenge to get his girl back.
That's a great point.
That filled the time of this movie, but I absolutely, now that he's got his girl back, I would hate to see that movie again where he's got to go get his girl back again. So if we put him back into the Merc role as Deadpool, which kind of bridges the gap of the Ryan Reynolds Wilson and the masked Deadpool that we saw in this film, that would serve a plot better, I think, in the future.
Good. Well, I like that a lot because truly, that was always one of my when you're talking about a character being meta, like the joke that we all have repeated ad nauseum is how much we fucking hate watching origin stories over and over again, unless they're constantly making fun of them and changing.
Right.
At one point, Deadpool is created because his parents are shot down in Crime Alley, and there's a pearl necklace. Like that's the payoff I want.
Yes, and he falls into the toxic vat, like, and that's why he has the scars. That would be great.
Yeah,
perfect.
There is I will say that for a movie that had as many jokes and had as much meta commentary as this movie, they did treat the actual plot like pretty earnestly. It was there were jokes along the way, and he made jokes at the film's expense, but the plot itself and his motivation and his relationships with his friends and with his his romantic interest, it was treated pretty earnestly, but there was just like a layer of jokes on top of it.
Because we've already talked about the relationship with his girlfriend. It was all comedy based, but like that's what made their relationship work. The sexual endeavors that they went through and were on screen more or less made that relationship seem firmly planted in reality. Oddly enough. And then the comedy that came up with, you already mentioned it, the performance of Colossus. The comedy role that Colossus played was, for Toph and for the listeners who haven't seen it, Colossus was the guy that was trying to recruit Deadpool and play the fatherly role of, oh, you shouldn't do that, you're a superhero. Oh, you have these powers, you shouldn't be, just blatantly killing people because you can. And so there was tons of comedy involved in that, just the Colossus and Deadpool relationship over and over.
Universe, how old is Colossus?
He seems older. He doesn't seem like he's Deadpool's literal age father, but he's like the experienced veteran X-Men.
Yes.
I'm just pulling it from my 94 X-Men where he's a teenager, so it honestly makes it even funnier that a 15-year-old is more mature than Deadpool, which again plays perfectly.
And Fox has messed with Colossus's age left and right anyway, because X2, I think he was a teenager, then Last Stand and Days of Future Past, he's a 20-something in the 70s or whatever.
Yeah, exactly.
And they're probably going with that timeline, frankly. So if he's 20-something in the 70s, then, he's 50. Let's say for the Deadpool movie, and that seemed about right. So
and I do think that Deadpool he kind of plays the Drax the Destroyer role, where he is the straight man to the other guy's comedy.
Yep.
And I think he works in that role. Deadpool or Colossus would not work as a primary character in the same way that Marvel has figured out that the Hulk doesn't really work as a primary character. He's there to support the others, and he's there, to smash.
Hulk has a more interesting, storyline than Colossus based on what I know. But yeah,
you're crazy.
You do kind of really okay.
I think that Colossus has an interesting story, but it's far more convoluted.
Nuanced, yeah.
It's very convoluted.
Oh yeah, Hulk.
You need years of.
Times. Hulk is a much more complex character, without a doubt.
Yes. I just think you need a lot more setup to make Colossus feel weighty as a character.
In Soviet Union, sometimes tractors roll over on Ilyana. That's a thing that you need to, come on. That's a complex backstory.
I like that.
As far as plot,
Ilyana.
A couple spoilers and IRL stuff that we can bring in. Dave actually pointed this one out to me, which I was excited about. At the very climax of the film, the whole action piece ends up happening right by one of the carriers.
It's like a decommissioned helicarrier.
Yes,
nice.
But it's not exactly referenced, but you can tell.
Fox has very specifically said, that wasn't a helicarrier, what are you talking about? But when you watch the movie, it is fucking clear as day that it's a helicarrier.
Right.
I like that.
And this character, Bob, who I'm not familiar with since I didn't read a lot of the Deadpool comics, but Bob, which is a reoccurring character of a guy that has he used to be an agent of Hydra and basically ends up, playing kind of a helper role to Wade and Deadpool. Yeah. He ended up having a cameo, which I would have never spotted, except thanks to Dave. So I loved that there was that stuff. Stan Lee makes an appearance at a strip club.
Stan Lee is the strip club DJ.
It's just there's so much that's woven in, and that's not even getting into all of the Easter egg jokes, which I'm sure we haven't even touched on with just one viewing. But from a plot standpoint, they really took their job seriously. We already talked about the opening credits being kind of a laughing stock from. That's not the word. It was a laugh a minute. Laugh a minute.
Fest?
Laugh extravaganza from the very beginning, and then the end credits are also very funny.
Brett. Yeah. Laugh extravaganza. Man,
if only I were clever, And then the very end credits are also very funny, where Deadpool just rides around on a unicorn. But it's a comic. It's like a cartoon.
Yeah, rides around on a unicorn with a dick as a horn, and it shoots a rainbow out of it.
It's so good. It's just so good.
One of the
Easter eggs.
One of the recurring Easter eggs that kept coming up was him just commenting on Hugh Jackman and Wolverine.
Right.
At one point, it kind of climaxes where he talks about, and I used climax on purpose.
I say, will you just say climax is slower?
Climax.
The orgasm of the film.
Yeah. So where he's talking about what he had to do to get this movie made, and it was that he had to do something dirty to some Australian's testicles, and it might or might not rhyme with pulverine. and at the very end of the movie. At the very end of the movie, he pulls off his Deadpool mask to make out with his lady, and he has Hugh Jackman's face from the cover of Sexiest Man Alive. It's just taped to his face.
No, stapled. It's stapled to his face.
Stapled to his forehead.
Yeah.
So his cancer face, his avocado fucking another avocado, an older avocado from the trailer. He just has Hugh Jackman's face stapled over his, and it's. I thought that those references were really good, and I thought that it was like a way to goad Hugh Jackman into being Wolverine in a Deadpool movie one last time.
Yeah, or multiple times.
So that way when they go to do X-Force in the next one, they can just listen, Hugh Jackman, we made reference to you multiple times in this movie. Let's go.
Technically, you're already in this movie.
See, Hugh Jackman's already come out and said his last time portraying Wolverine on screen is going to be this Old Man Logan film.
Right.
But I think this gives that character a new place to exist and new life. He doesn't have to be fucking jacked Hugh Jackman who is in every scene. John Johnston, Joe J. Johnston. No, he doesn't have to be in every scene of a movie. So, can Hugh Jackman just pop in and be used as comic fodder, or be a character in the background of things that still does cool stuff and looks like a hard ass but doesn't have to take his shirt off? Hell yeah.
But why bother if he's not going to take his shirt off?
So I love all that.
I did also love the X-Men references. You already made mention of when they went to the mansion and he talked about, hey, it's almost as if adding another X-Men would have been too expensive. But he also, at one point, Deadpool name drops Beast and says that Beast shit in his yard. At one point, Colossus threatens Deadpool by saying, "Does he need to take him to see the professor?" And Deadpool says, "Is it going to be Stewart or McAvoy?" And I like that. I love that he is commenting on this franchise, because this franchise is one that needs to be made fun of, right? It is at the same time full of quality and full of like head scratching. What the fuck did you do to the timeline? And there needs to be a character that makes fun of it, and I love that Deadpool is that character.
Oh, it's so good.
So good.
Yeah, I'm trying to actually go through. I'm sure we can come up with all the list of Easter eggs and kind of beat a dead horse with that, but I'm not sure that it's worth it on a podcast, frankly. And I really would be curious to see, Dave. You and I haven't talked about this side of it all. Was there anything that you didn't like in this film?
Yeah, I mean, I did think that the revenge story was a little bit by the book, and it didn't really do anything for me. But that wasn't the point of the movie, so it didn't bother me that much. I didn't think that I need revenge on the guy that made me like this was the main thing. I think that they did a good job of making you care about it by really making that guy a shitty villain, and you really wanted to see him, get his comeuppance. But I didn't really the actual plot of the movie I didn't really care about. It's not that I disliked it. It didn't really do anything for me.
It was a vehicle for the character, right?
Correct, and that's fine, and that's it did its job. In that respect. But it wasn't. There wasn't anything especially interesting about it, and there wasn't anything especially original about the plot. But you have never seen a character like this on screen before,
and I don't think, as much as people I think understand who Ryan Reynolds is and what this character is supposed to be based on the marketing, they didn't know that was how this film was going to be met once it actually hit the screens, and so it was very kind of critical, in my opinion, for this film to be an origin film and let you in slowly, because Deadpool, frankly, is not a character that is entering the zeitgeist a whole lot.
I mean, not before this, but yeah.
Not in the way that many of these other ones do, like Batman, Superman, even Wolverine, or Captain America, or Iron Man. Like Iron Man kind of came out of left field when that movie came out, frankly, which kind of spawned a lot of what's happened since for the Disney Marvel stuff. But Deadpool didn't have nearly the familiarity going for him. So,
and I think what I'd like to see, and I mean the next one is going to be, we think that the next one is going to be X-Force based or Deadpool and Cable based, and that's very cool. And maybe time travel adds in, a big, a good way to kind of, you do a time travel movie that services the Deadpool character, where Deadpool gets to make jokes about time travel movies, or he gets to make jokes about the timeline of the X-Men movies. But I would really like to see the first volume of the new Deadpool series with it was Gary Duggan and the comedian Brian Posehn, who wrote the newest Deadpool series. They did a volume where the first 6 issues he was fighting dead presidents. So the zombified, reanimated corpses of dead presidents. And it was like the movie Zombieland, where you saw Bill Murray make a cameo as a zombified version of himself.
Yeah.
Like, that was kind of what it felt like, and it had that tone. And I'd like to see something that was even less earnest than this movie was.
Yeah.
The next time out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I asked you that because, frankly, I really can't come up with any. I think the tropes were tropes because of either necessity or tropes for being tropes that they got to make fun of.
Yeah.
So it was hard.
And I was nitpicking. I was nitpicking to try and find something.
And I asked you to do that, so I appreciate it.
Yeah.
You're good at following directions, and I'll always appreciate that about you.
I did want to real quick just like rifle through some other Easter eggs and then talk about the post-credit sequence. So there were a lot of references to non-X-Men, non-superhero things. He referenced X-Men Origins Wolverine. You see an action figure of Deadpool from that movie, which looks like dog shit. And then there were a ton of other movie references, genre movies for people like us. There was a reference to Yoda riding on Luke Skywalker's back, which turns into a sex joke. There was,
I mean, obviously.
Yeah, there was a reference to Weird Science when Wade talks to his girlfriend, saying, "It's almost like I made you in a computer." Negasonic Teenage Warhead, the teenage X-Man that is kind of the mentee to Colossus, has a shaved head, and Deadpool comments that she kind of looks like Ripley from Alien 3. And T.J. Miller makes some Blade jokes, and all of that is kind of the run up to Deadpool getting he got his hand cut off at one point in the movie, and he makes a 127 hours joke, and then he makes multiple jokes about how creepy and small the hand looks as it grows back, and it really does look creepy and old,
and how it's gonna make his dick look bigger if he jerks off with it.
Yeah. I'm gonna go and masturbate real quick because I bet it looks huge in this tiny weird hand.
And just one thing about Negasonic Teenage Warhead, she as much as that character could have just been
a
throwaway, there were some really funny parts. Like at one point, he's making so many references to something, and like they're jokes that are totally playing to an audience of a 32-year-old. And Negasonic Teenage Warrior is just like, "You're so old," as she's like texting on her phone and chewing gum, which was just so like tonally it was perfect. It was the perfect response for a teenager to make, because none of that is supposed to be funny to a teenager, and yet there are teenagers in the audience that are, probably missing half the jokes and yet still laughing. So I thought that was just a really smart way to kind of allude to some of that.
Yeah, and I thought it was really great that you had the jokey guy in Deadpool, you had the straight man in Colossus, and you had just the totally oblivious and/or "fuck you, I don't care" of that character.
Right.
Which was really funny. It was really funny.
It was a fun, like, I don't necessarily want to see them become a team that goes and does things together, but I'm okay with Negasonic Teenage Warhead being part of X-Force or being a character that gets roped in on missions with them and stuff. So the interplay between those dynamics was definitely fun.
Yeah. So the post-credit sequence, Toph, was one where I was both simultaneously thrilled and a little bit let down because we were really holding out hope for Bruce Campbell. Is kind of the long story short.
Yeah.
Fair.
So
we wanted to hear those words. We really wanted to hear those words.
So we're watching Deadpool like prance around on a unicorn with a dick rainbow horn. And
a dickicorn?
A dickicorn? A rainbow.
That's what I call mine.
A rainbornicock? Anyway, so we watched that for a little while. The credits go by. We knew that there was going to be a post-credit sequence, and this movie does the most meta, most wonderful thing that it could do, and it pulls almost the original post-credit sequence, which was Ferris Bueller's Day Off.
Mm-hmm.
Ferris Bueller's Day Off was
tacky wallpaper, gaudy striped robe over the Deadpool costume, and he starts off with Dave.
You guys are still here? And he essentially just looks straight at the screen and tells us, hey, there's going to be a Deadpool 2, and that's going to have Cable in it. He just looked at the screen and said, Cable is coming to Deadpool 2.
Yeah. Which is a pretty incredible thing for a movie that probably didn't know it was going to do well.
The buzz was good, but there's no guarantee to it, certainly.
No.
And certainly not $350 million by the end of its run.
Fuck.
And again, for all the same reasons I just said, the zeitgeist isn't super familiar with Deadpool. Why the fuck would they be familiar with Cable?
Exactly.
But that's still what's in the post-credits. So I think they know that character can play great with Deadpool if they cast it right. And he even references that in the scene. He's like, no, we haven't cast it yet. But he will be in the movie. So I'm excited about that as a possibility. There are some that have already kind of opted in and raised their hands. I don't know if you guys saw any of that, but
I saw Stephen Lang, the guy from Avatar, who has the look. He certainly has the look.
Yep.
But I kind of want like a comedic straight man instead of like
a straight man.
Yeah, Stephen Lang is like a military guy.
Right.
Like that's who he plays usually. That's who he gets cast as. I would like to see a guy who is like dry funny instead of just dry.
Yes. Which is why, again, Topher's original idea that I totally stole and pretended was my own.
I'm pretty sure this was Brent's idea.
That's what I thought.
Let the record show this was my idea. That's why Bruce Campbell is going to work, because he's still going to have the comedic timing, but he's going to be the annoyed older guy, rolling his eyes at Deadpool's antics.
Your shit.
Campbell as Cable.
And frankly, I think you can have a lot of comedians in that film that still play straight roles. Like Olivia Munn. Why is Olivia Munn in X-Men Apocalypse? Psylocke is not someone who's known for their comedy. Olivia Munn is very funny. So, I think you can have characters played by actors who have great comedic timing in a role with Deadpool.
Without needing to get fucking Carrot Top in here.
They don't need to be slapstick, exactly. So
I think moving forward, and so
John Hamm was the only other one that I saw kind of throw his hat in the ring, I think, for Cable.
Oh, John Hamm?
John Hamm, which is interesting. You can gray his hair for sure. Yeah. Stephen Lang's got the bulk a lot easier than John Hamm or Bruce Campbell, frankly.
Because it was the 90s, Cable was a very muscular character, because that's what
everyone.
That's what comic books looked like in the 90s. But you don't have, there's nothing about that character that you don't have to get Bruce Campbell jacked up on steroids in order to play that character. There's
that's
nothing.
True.
His power set,
he can wear a jacket.
Yeah,
he wants to.
His power set is not strength based, right?
No.
And his power set is energy based, and I believe he has telekinetic power as well. And he time travels with technology.
Yeah, he's more a leader than he is a superhero.
Yeah.
He's more of a mental planner than he is a brute force type of guy. And his huge fucking gun, frankly, does more damage than I think we've ever seen, his metal arm or his gigantic biceps.
So there are two movies that I want to see moving forward from here. The first one is a Deadpool Cable buddy cop movie, which is like a Lethal Weapon type of...
Except good.
Like a Lethal Weapon, but without like a Nazi guy in it.
Right.
Less with that.
So I'd like to see that, where you have like dry funny Bruce Campbell and meta funny Deadpool doing some damn thing, where like they're mercenaries through time that have to catch a guy or kill a guy or do a thing.
Yeah.
That would be funny, and it would change the formula from this, because it would take the love story out of it, but I think that would serve the movie and serve the characters better. Or I'd like to see full-on X-Force, and I think the lineup that I would like to see, based on the characters they've already established, I'd love to see Deadpool and Wolverine and Colossus and Cable and Psylocke. That would be great. That would be maybe
even Bishop. I think that would be kind of
Sure.
I'm into some Bishop here.
Sure. I would love. They had Bishop in the last movie. In what was it, Days of Future Past, and he was fine. Sure.
Yeah, he was great.
Yeah.
Yep.
But I would love to see a movie like that with those types of characters, with that caliber of comedic actor. Because even though the Wolverine solo movies have sucked in general, I would say that Hugh Jackman is a guy who can play that character with a smile.
The problem with those movies have not been Hugh Jackman.
Absolutely not.
Yeah, agreed. So
I want to veer the conversation slightly. Only in that, as we're discussing the thing that we want from the next one, can we discuss what I'm worried about we're getting? In that we touched on briefly in the spoiler section is a spate of R-rated, meta-humor-filled, awful movies after this would make a lot of money. Because this is truly, and I know movie studios hate this, because while they can make more of these, this is the only franchise they can apply this to. I don't really want a lot. I want none. I want none. First and foremost, I want a dictionary so I can figure out how to use the English language. I want no more
Amazon, click.
Meta humor movies about the comic book universe.
Ooh.
I don't need that. What I want is things that try to represent stories faithfully, which is something that both Dave and I have championed in a lot of characters. In Deadpool,
characters.
Deadpool is the lens in which we get to laugh at all the rest of them, which is why he's so satisfying. Yeah. I don't want that in other stories. I want it in Deadpool.
If DC needs theirs, I can kind of understand that. And frankly, if Disney Marvel needs theirs as well, I can understand that as well. But Deadpool is Deadpool in a very unique way. And Spider-Man might be the only other Marvel character that can pull that stuff off.
What such a weak mirror of Deadpool he is.
I think that Spider-Man can do it. Spider-Man can do the meta thing, but Spider-Man can't do the R-rated thing. So there's no character that's going to do both. Whereas, I think the one that people keep pointing out for DC is Lobo, where Lobo can do the R-rated thing with a lot of gore and violence, but Lobo's not a funny character in any way.
And that's the issue, is that you have to find someone.
Lobo?
Yeah, but I could see you do. I mean, so that's the other issue that we're going to have, is that we have this. Batman is always referred to as an anti-hero. Deadpool really is kind of. He's an actual mercenary. In this story, he's motivated by something that's altruistic and morally good. In a lot of stories throughout his entire span, he's just here for a paycheck. He doesn't give a shit about what you're doing. He just heard that he could shoot a guy in the nuts, and you pay him for it. He's in. That's it. I don't, he's not morally compelled by something else. He's just a mercenary. And that is what makes him so great.
Yeah,
you can't apply that lens universally.
I think it would be great, to your point, to see Deadpool as a villain at some point in a movie because of that. If they can establish this character and he works, and they can establish other characters around him that live in the same universe and stuff that we care about and are heroes, you can absolutely have Deadpool flipping sides a little bit and still
it works
because
with Magneto.
Yeah, for sure.
Magneto's a perfect example of how, in this X-Men universe, and this might be the only one where I think this could work really successfully, a lot of these teams are very fluid.
Yes.
There are very few absolutes anywhere in this universe. So, there are a lot of times when, in the past, Deadpool has teamed up with Magneto and with, some of the, other kind of big quote-unquote villains. So,
interesting.
My fear is that, we're going to suddenly get a slate of trying to insert meta humor into movies where it doesn't necessarily fit. I'm thinking about Vinnie Jones yelling, "I'm the Juggernaut, bitch," in the middle of an X-Men movie, where it's just I can't, I love that YouTube video. I can't imagine something worse than what you just did here. Yeah. And it sounds like Deadpool, and obviously it's a very different lens and character.
Right.
You have that issue. He's allowed. You want him to do that. He's supposed to do that.
Yeah.
And the flip side of that is the second part I'm concerned about is just, I think that there are a lot of movies or a lot of books, you could adapt into movies that would get an R rating, but would they still feel Would they still feel like comic book movies, or would they start to feel like Tarantino films where you're like, he just cut someone's arm off to cut someone's arm off?
Right. And it is a slippery slope, and to your point, sadly, the film studios are run by dumb, rich, old, white males who see formula and say, apply formula, I don't care if it's good or not, do it. And so, yeah, we might end up in a situation where there's a lot of attempts to do something, and it would be bad for the genre, and it would be bad for, the cinema. So I don't know that it will happen, because I don't know what other character. I mean, you already have things like Kick-Ass, and I don't know. I can't think of any other examples, but like it's certainly a tone that works. It is a place that you get to play around in. But I don't know that there's a character that already exists in a way in any of the established universes that should immediately tackle that voice.
So I do think that you're going to Disney specifically will probably avoid this temptation.
Fair.
I don't think you're going to get an R-rated MCU movie. You'll get that in the Netflix series, maybe.
Yeah.
Which we've already, I mean, to be totally fair, we've already gotten an R-rated Daredevil, and we've already gotten an R-rated Jessica Jones.
Yeah.
So you'll see that, and Disney is very good at like segmenting its audience that way.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
But I don't think you'll ever see an R-rated Star Wars. Like, that will never. You might get. I don't think you'll ever see an R-rated Star Wars anthology film, even.
We did get an R-rated Revenge of the Sith, for the record, but yeah.
Revenge of the Sith was R-rated?
Wasn't it? No,
what?
PG-13. Excuse me.
It was 13.
Excuse me. But I mean the Star Wars story anthology stuff could eventually end up R. But I'd be surprised.
Yeah, I'd be surprised if any Star Wars. So I think Disney is the one that has the most to lose, so they would be the least likely to do that. Disney has a cash cow for the next 50 years with this Marvel and Star Wars stuff.
Yeah, I should have, Dave, I think you're 100% correct. I think I should have caveated that as, so since Fox makes all of the terrible dumb idea movies, I'm afraid that Fox will make more terrible dumb idea movies.
I would lump Warner Brothers in there too, to be fair.
Yes, very much so. Yeah, I'm not worried about the MCU going. My fear with the MCU is that they try to become a little more meta. Like Iron Man is right now their meta voice.
Yeah.
And
Star-Lord.
You don't think so?
Yeah. Star-Lord can fill that place.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A little bit
That's a
too.
good point.
But yeah.
Same bet, and I think they're both done well, right? That is your fourth wall release from the audience. It's that, when Deadpool gets to speak directly to camera,
if that
and
happens,
it works because it's Deadpool. It's
right.
just like my fear is that, again, as you said, they see a formula and they want to repeat it, and we're struggling to get actually we have a glut of really good movies, but for a long time we struggled to get really good comic book movies, and my fear is that you're gonna take what is a giant dickicorn, whatever we landed on as Deadpool, where he is the exception to basically every rule, and that's why he's great and we love him so much, and try to apply this in other places.
Yeah. And that would be very, very difficult because Deadpool is the singular character that can do this. And if you take out the Deadpool personality,
right,
and you just include the R-rated jokes,
totally,
without Ryan Reynolds, and you include the sex and the violence, it's not. I don't think this is a good movie without that character at the center of it.
Oh yeah.
If it's
without
just about
for that matter.
Without the dreamboat, Ryan Reynolds, this doesn't work. That sexy, clever, witty.
Oh boy, there go the pants.
That's
pants
exactly
brazen man with
exactly
his
what I
testosterone and Adam's apple.
Wow. Why
All right.
Did you paint your dick to look like Deadpool, or is that a tattoo?
Ooh.
Good thing it's a podcast, listeners, and I think that really kind of wraps it up nicely.
With a bow.
Yeah,
with a big old
something.
with a
dick
bow. as a present. No, honestly, I think you heard it very clear. We really enjoyed this movie. We really enjoyed this character, and we hope that it doesn't take this type of film in a bad trajectory by applying it in places where it doesn't belong. Because this character, this actor, this universe is kind of the place where a lot of these jokes are going to work, and we frankly want to see more of it, but not overkill.
I'd go for 2 a year. I'd go for 2 Deadpool movies a year. Give me my buddy cop movie, give me my rom-com, give me my, related to the rest of the universe. Give me, like, Deadpool as, isn't Andy Samberg in, like, a detective show on television?
Yeah,
Isn't that a thing?
yeah.
Okay, put Deadpool in one of those. Like, put Deadpool into NYPD Blue and give me that as it. Like, I will watch Deadpool do just about anything.
I would like to see Deadpool do like a Mystery Science Theater 3000, where it's not a shadow. He just like pops into the scene and looks at you and talks.
Can we have that on every other Fox release that's ever previously been?
Yes.
Just Ryan Reynolds. Like so the most recent Fantastic Four, just like him in a seat with Colossus saying
exactly.
Every single Fox film that ends up below 60% on Rotten Tomatoes, they are contractually obligated to, within the next 18 months, to release the Deadpool version of it, where he just stands there and commentates on the fucking movie.
Guys, we need to approach Ryan. We're taking to Twitter to suggest this immediately after this podcast is over.
That's what I want.
I feel like he'd be down for
this. So good. I totally think he'd be down for that.
Dave, I would sign your petition to make so many more Fantastic Four movies if I knew that once they were just absolute garbage, Ryan Reynolds would come out as Deadpool and do shit all over them.
It wouldn't take 18 months. It would take 18 hours.
In my proposal, though, Deadpool or Fantastic Four movies are not being made by Fox, guys.
Well, I want to move them back to Fox now, just so I can keep them.
Can we just move them to the dumpster and they just get made for the rats that live there?
Boo. Well, since this is not a Fantastic Four episode, I will wrap up our conversation of Deadpool.
We'll never have one.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see. I might force you guys. We hope that you guys enjoyed our Deadpool extravaganza. We hope that we weren't saying the same shit you've heard 3 times by now. But we will continue to do these review episodes. The best feedback we've gotten thus far has been for our Star Wars episode. So we will do a full review episode for Batman v Superman, which we will all be sure to see that first weekend. And it will
debatable.
Hopefully,
how about Daredevil season 2?
I figured we could do Daredevil season 2 as like a full B segment on a regular episode.
No.
Because I don't know if we'll all be able to get through 10 hours of it very quickly. So, anyways, we're gonna do more of these. The next one will most likely be Batman v Superman. Toph, where can our listeners find you on the Twitter sphere?
You can find me disparaging your hometown, state, and favorite sports team as at the hospital ball.
Brent?
Hit me up on Twitter at Shouldn't Brag But.
And you can find me tweeting as the show at PopNerdery. If you have anything to say about Deadpool, or if you'd like to make a meta commentary on our show itself, please visit us at popnerdery.com. Tweet at us at PopNerdery. And until next time, episode 14, we'll see you guys in the Finger Guns place where we finger guns.
Finger guns?
Do what now?
That was terrible, but finger guns.
Yay.
Finger guns.
We'll see you guys in the Finger Guns place where we finger guns. I said that.
Do you want to just do the outro?
Oh no, that's making it in. I'm not editing that out. I might edit that part into the end after the song happens. Making fun of myself for being a jackass.
Come find us where we'll finger blast you.
At the Finger Blast place.
By the
Come
finger
into my
gun
underwear,
fountain.
finger gun me.
That was
Yeah,
Down behind the
Ford
dumpster at the
Fiat.
7-Eleven, getting finger gunned by a big old line of people.
Ever been finger gunned by Colossus? He's made of metal.
I might just pull that part.
Also, sensitive lover.
He's got a delicate touch for a guy made out of adamantium.
He does this cool thing. He calls it the Putin.
But
Is he made of adamantium? I don't even know.
I don't
He's an
think
incredible
he is.
lover. He just keeps yelling Ilyana the whole time, though. It's really awful.
Ilyana! And crying, just sobbing the whole time.